Good evening, fight fans. Welcome to another great episode of Headkicks and Haymakers. I'm your host, Bodkins, and of course, with me is my guy, Bobby Blunts. No wit tonight. He's, doing that Thanksgiving Day stuff. But me and Bobby said we would go ahead and we'll do a show here, and because we got to talk about UFC Macau. I mean, geez, did we get vintage Peter Yan? I had it 1 through 5, one through, a clean sweep for Peter Yan over Figgy. That looked like the Peter Yan that we saw winning titles on Saturday morning. Also, I love Saturday morning UFC. Give me that. Give me waking up to eating some pancakes and some fights. Man, it was a fabulous Saturday morning. I felt like I could focus in on the fights. I'm not about to pass out and fall asleep. Give me more 7 a.m. cards. I know it's a little earlier for you, Bobby, but man, that card actually was really good. I thought a really really good card.
Yeah, shout out to all the European fans. Like, I will never judge you for not tuning into an Apex card, because like having to do that, like, it started at like midnight for me, and I was like, okay, yeah, we'll do a few prelims, see how long I can make it last. And then I'm just thinking to myself, and it's like, why don't I just watch it all when I wake up? And I was able to cut through all the fat, just have the fighters in the ring and get to going. And it definitely delivered. Those prelims were pretty sneaky. They had the road to the UFC on there too. That wild knockout by the doctor, who
shout out to her. Shout out to her. Parents don't even know she was there. She's a doctor. She was like a plus 1,600 underdog. And I mean, I'm gonna look her name up real quick. She was the thing that, what was that? The second.
It was fairly deep in there, actually, like compared to the prelims. I know it wasn't like the first couple, but then again, I was kind of watching it kind of backwards. I started I started with the main event. It's like, why not? You got it all fresh. Like,
yeah, it was Shi Ming. Shi Ming, was her name. Yeah,
no, that was definitely they're definitely gonna be able to sell that story. Probably have her parents in the front row next time or something, and they'll make it work. But overall entertaining, and I mean, I don't mind getting more than one of those a year. I know it normally works out like, we probably get one of them, but so much of the stuff is in Abu Dhabi and stuff. We're so used to the midday card, it really doesn't bug me as much. And like I said, you're just able to kind of get through it all in like 2.5 hours, which is saves you a lot of time, especially like rewatching it.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I watched the main card live with the breakfast and everything else. So it was. I just enjoyed getting up, drinking some coffee, and watching the fights. I enjoyed it. I mean, I mentioned Peter Yan. What was your thoughts on that main event and just the absolute? I mean, Figgy is no joke, and I didn't really how active he had been this year. Like, this was like, I think, his third or fourth fight in this year. So it's wild. And here, Peter Yan, he's 8 months after having ACL surgery, puts on a classic.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really good in that first round. When Figgy got that takedown, I was like, oh shit, I think Bodkins might have summed this up perfectly for struggling with the wrestler. But not only did he get up, he was continuing to throw that kick with like really no fear of getting taken down. And eventually, I think that kind of wore on Figgy, knowing he couldn't keep him down and stuff. Figgy did have some moments. I do agree with the scorecards of it pretty much being a 50-45. But, it was looking like he was going to win round one. And then Yan ended up etching that out. And, there were a few points where Jan was able to drop him, but then, Figgy did have success in the fourth with the striking. So it was a really good fight that you would kind of expect for two guys like at the top of the class like that, and absolutely delivered, all class from both of them at the end. And, kind of a weird predicament for like what would be next for them. I'm sure we'd get into that, but both of them looked great. As far as Jan looking like his old self, I do agree. And then at the same time, I think it does kind of get lost at the competition he was fighting in some of those losses and stuff. It's
I mean,
he was just going to the slouches and stuff.
They were all three bantamweight champions. You know what I mean? Lost the title to Aljo, then lost to Sugar Sean, who was a champ, and then lost to Marab, who's the current champ.
Yeah,
like so all three losses to where
exactly. Those are all fairly respectable wins, and I mean, even the one they tried to claim was a blemish, aged pretty nice, and not only that, I think 50% of the people still think he won that fight, referring to the O'Malley fight.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I was a little surprised in Figgy at first. Yeah, I don't know if he just kind of had the plan of thinking he'd be able to take Jan down and like kind of keep him down, because
I think that's what I thought that too, and then realized once Jan kept getting up, I can't just take him down and lay on him.
Yeah, but like Figgy at no point quit, even though it was like getting pretty frustrating. And I don't think there's a scenario where someone could like score the fight for him, but he's still going to be a tough out for any of the top people at that division. So I mean, whenever there's a fight like two guys like that, there's obviously a loser, but like you want a perfect example. That is the type of performance you put in when you're like, oh, I can't wait to see that guy next. Yeah. It isn't from, 18 illegal headshots in the 5th round and being like, oh, sign me up for another one of those. So, yeah, no, Figgy definitely showed that he is definitely a force in that division. And looking forward to seeing who they match both those guys up with next.
Yeah, I am too. And we'll get into the 135 matchmaking here in a little bit. I just want to kind of sum up the rest of this macaw part. Carlos Olberg, nice win over Volkan Ozdemir. I would have liked to re-see them book him with Jamal Hill, but Jamal now we know is going to fight Yuri Prohaska in January. But he had a nice win. How about this? Man, I was all in. I had bought into the hype train of Wayne Kong, Bobby, and I love the mask makeup. I was like, oh, this is going to be my girl. We're going to go to this girl. I enjoy her. And then, well, she gets choked out, and then another nice win by Yan Xiaonin. I don't really know where they go with her either right now.
Yeah, that one is probably equally as tough for where they go with her, especially it's almost stranger that, we haven't seen Wei Li. Yeah, and,
not since the UFC 300.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone would be mad if they ran that one back, because though, like, Wei Li dominated the fight, like, I mean, she legit finished her probably 2-3 times. I don't know who else they're going to match up in the division unless they're planning on doing maybe a super fight with Valentina or something, which, judging on the upset that happened against the Joker, that might be more and more in the UFC's cards, because it seemed like the UFC was doing everything in their power to give her the Pereira treatment and kind of, go off the kickboxing win, and I don't want to say fast track to the title, but they probably, if she won that fight, they probably would have like given her one more, and that would have been it. And it was really funny because, like I said, I was watching it delayed, but I intentionally like stayed off all of social media because I was like worried about like, anything getting spoiled with like a post or something. And the way the commentary was talking, it was like, oh, I don't know. Like after that first round, it's like, oh, this one might be. And then sure enough, it was quick. And I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Did she go out? Did she tap to that or?
Yeah, I think so. If my memory calls, I think so. I I think like
They put
yeah,
her on the
like what?
main card too.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
like they elevated that fight for a reason.
yeah. Um, real quick for Yan Xiaonan, like I don't know, like Tatiana Suarez was supposed to fight, but I think she got injured. Now she was supposed to fight next month.
Yeah, and I mean that would kind of be the fight for me.
But
That's
I think she got hurt, and
yeah,
then her fight got
and I
canceled.
think that's the only reason it's not already like made or
Or maybe
to
they
be
do Ray Lee and Tatiana instead. Instead, they just say, "Hey, we're just going to do this right now."
I would really have no issue with it personally, because like to me, it's just kind of a matter of if, like when she will fight for the belt, because especially when you see like past matchups and stuff, it just kind of makes sense. But again, yeah, that fight was on UFC 300, so they can kind of promote it as the epic rematch and stuff like that. But I personally would want to see them do Tatiana there. And I think the UFC wants to see one out of her before they just go ahead and make that, mainly because of her health woes. And
Yeah,
personally, I think that would be kind of the best thing for her.
same.
You don't want to just go into fighting Wei Li. I mean, that could, I'm not saying she couldn't do it, but that why make the task tougher,
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Carlos Ulberg? I think I like this kid. I'm not saying like Alex Pierce should be next for him, but I did like the matchup with him and Jamal Hill. Now, obviously, Jamal Hill's matched up with Yuri. That kind of leaves, what about him and Jan Blachowicz would be nice on Jan's comeback fight, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah, he's definitely putting together quite a streak. I was not kind of expecting him to be that favored, and he necessarily like his performance was great, but it didn't really represent the original bookmaking line. Now,
Yeah.
granted, I mean these guys are tough as shit, but I love that fight. I think that'd be a great one. I, like you, would have really preferred them to keep the Jamal fight, but at the same time, give me Carlos versus Roundtree.
I was gonna say, do you do the two kind of younger, the guys who haven't been in the rankings that high next? That'd be a fun fight for sure. I love Roundtree. Like,
I mean, to me, it's I could care like that would be better than like having them fight like Anthony Smith or like Jan or someone like that.
yeah.
I don't think the ranking is that important, and I would rather prefer the more enticing match, because that was kind of the interesting thing is when Jamal Hill fell off of the fight, or was it Roundtree that got pulled first? I can't even remember.
It was supposed to be Roundtree Jamal Hill, then it was Ulberg Jamal Hill, then they pulled Jamal Hill's like no, and then it was Ulberg and I think Anthony Smith, and then Ulberg said no. Yeah. He got hurt. What a mess! Like that was crazy. What was that UFC? That was International Fight Week. That was the Conor card. That was supposed to be Conor card.
And because exactly it had that like weird trickle down. With almost the entire card, and so yeah, hopefully they figure out their game plan and have that go off more seamlessly. But for him, I would like to see him. I'd say put him on a pay-per-view. I don't know if his plan is like kind of wait for Izzy to fight and like go on that card, but I don't think
fight in Australia. He's New Zealand, right? He's out of KCB. They're going to Australia in February, right?
Yeah, and I mean, he could very well make that turnaround. I think still he might even prefer to fight there, but you know, I would prefer to have him like be the opening fight on like the main card or something. You know, just get that guy in a crowd, because you know his fights are exciting, and that like really helps kind of build these guys up instead of like you know the lifeless pecs.
Yeah. What you got? Any final other thoughts on UFC Macau? Macau. I keep saying Macau. Is it Macau? Macau.
Mainly, probably just like the matchmaking outside of the main event and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because like personally for me, and you know, I had this opinion before Marab dropped his little skit and stuff like that. But actually, I'm glad he did that skit, because you know, the whole thing how he had on the left and right, and he had all the people that Peter Yan beat, you know, the whole list of them. So the funniest part that he left out of that is every single one of those names, except for Corey Sandhagen, turned down a fight against Umar. And, you know, I'm not trying to say that Marab is trying to duck him. I think it's way more marketing. Like when he did the post earlier this week about it, it was he had Steak and Monster like in the thing, and then he got everyone to like, you know, quote tweet it and stuff. So, I mean, he's just kind of working what he's going with here. But I do think if you know, he's asking for Jan here, I think what Umar needs to be doing, because the UFC is obviously trying to book him versus Umar before you know, Ramadan goes into play. So if I'm Umar, I am going after the Peter Yan fight if Marab you know, wants to kind of play the whole and granted he might have an injury or something like that, but he doesn't seem to want to fight till March. And you know, I do not know if Peter Yan would take the fight or not. He might just kind of, you know, hold back and be like, this might be too short notice. But for me personally, like on Saturday night, the matchup I wanted to see them do a rematch of, and this was assuming that Umar was getting the next title shot, I want them to run back Yan versus Sugar, make it 5 rounds. That is the easiest fight for, I think they should make.
You were so like, yeah, that's kind of where like I'm looking at the 135. So like right now you got Marab, and he's really beating everybody on the way up. I don't mind Umar being next to the title. And then you look at Peter's fight. I wouldn't mind seeing Peter. I wouldn't mind seeing either Sean and Corey or Peter and Corey, or either Peter and O'Malley too, like in a main event, like you said.
Is Jan's performance for you good enough to give him the title shot next?
It possibly is. I mean, like what he did to Figgy, and who was on a little run, was perfect. I probably, so if I was writing the pin, I would probably still give Umar the title shot. And I don't really know if he deserves it. Like he's beaten. If it's true that everybody's telling him no, besides Corey took that fight, then kudos to him. But I would you could almost do a number 1 contender fight versus Peter and Umar. You know what I mean? Like I would probably favor Umar in that fight.
I'd have no problem with that. And legitimately, I don't think Umar would either. Because like he's made it clear pretty much that he wants to fight. And I think he knows eventually, you know, he'll be fighting for the title if it's not in his next fight. You know, I think the word deserves is pretty worthless in the UFC when we've seen some of the things they've pulled.
Do that.
I could definitely see both sides of it.
If I'm Merab's management, I'm saying I want the O'Malley rematch.
Yeah, like for the money aspect, I get it. But
If I'm managing Merab and his I'm saying, hey, we want the O'Malley rematch. He wants it. Let's run it back because there's going to be more money, right? I'm not too sure if there's a lot of money in Merab and Umar. I think Umar gives him the toughest challenge. I think he runs through. I think he runs through Peter Yan again if they do that matchup. So for the sake of what should be right and what's next, I'll give the title shot first to Umar.
Yeah, and another thing off that, it could be bigger if Merab was selling it properly. Merab is trying to sell it as Umar is an undeserving contender that doesn't deserve to fight me. Well, let me tell you how I see it. I see it as Umar is the only one in that division that can give us a compelling, competitive fight against Merab, because everyone else he has just pretty much been able to wear down. And, that's the selling point for that fight. It would, be more of the best versus best argument. I cannot really blame Merab for trying to get a O'Malley rematch when you see how easy it was for Merab there. And, I know O'Malley was talking about injuries and stuff. So it would not shock me at all if the UFC went in that direction for one more. But it also would not shock me if they kind of stall Merab out for not taking the Umar fight. Like he doesn't accept it, and he's like, "I want March," and they're like, "Nah, you're getting August now." So,
Or they do the Francis route. Remember when Francis couldn't fight, and they do an interim title for Ciryl Gane and Derek Lewis.
Yeah, the only I was thinking about that, but the only reason I don't see them doing that is because they kind of just stake the claim about not doing the interim for Bilal, which I think they made the right call on.
Yeah, we'll get to that here after
this.
It
would look a little bit like, oh, fuck this guy, but at the same time, we already have all this stuff on video of them fucking over Aljo and stuff.
Yeah.
And it would not shock me at all. And you can't really hate on Merab for wanting the Yan fight, because in his mind, they've done 4 camps for that fight, if you include him and Aljo, or that would be the 4th they'd be going into.
Yeah.
So why the hell not sell that? But competitively, it's please give me Umar. But
so we agree Umar's next. So then who do you match Sean with? Yan or Sandhagen?
I would prefer to go Yan and then do Sandhagen and Figgy.
I would prefer Sean
and Sandhagen.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the wet dream fight for a lot of people. So I completely understand that.
And then you do Corey, and Figgy, really, because they're both coming off of losses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the fight, I've said this too. I think the fight they should make, Dominic Cruz is talking about one more coming, one last dance. Just do him and Aldo. I know they've been feeding Aldo these super studs, but Jesus, give Aldo the veteran, the fight that we should have seen all them years in WEC.
You could easily sell out a fight night with that.
Yeah.
Knowing them, they would probably want to do it on the pay-per-view. But I agree. I see some people clamoring for a Cejudo rematch, but I think the Aldo call is right on the money.
The only person clamoring for that is what's Cejudo's agent, Mr. What's his Ali.
Ali, yeah. I mean, if they do that fight, that would be the one fight I would want all nonsense to ref.
Yeah,
That's a way you could sell me on that fight. But if all nonsense ain't reffing it, nah, do Aldo.
Yeah, or maybe I wouldn't mind even Aldo and Henry Cejudo.
I really wouldn't either. And that's a much better fight for Aldo to take now than it would have been 3 years ago. So, the key cliff note is not a new up-and-comer that is not ranked. Like, please, let's not do that.
Yeah, and maybe you do Cheeto and Song Yangdong. I like that. Just kind of rounding up that top 10 of the bantamweights there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of Cheeto's the one that's in the rough spot as far as like who do you go next with and stuff.
Yeah, he's lost to all the top guys. Like he lost to Corey Sandhagen. I don't think he's ever fought Peter Yan. Lost to
he was calling for it after Jan's win, and MMA Twitter was really letting him hear it. But at the same time, I know he could give a fuck. It's you got to call your shot,
Yeah, Cheeto's one of the coolest dudes in the world. He can say whatever the hell he wants in my mind. Bobby, you mentioned it about the Bilal Muhammad fight. He was supposed to headline the next weekend's card. Now, obviously, the injury. We were wondering, well, who's it going to be that co-main event? Maybe it's none other than still Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary. And then they get Colby Covington to replace Ian Gary because Ian was supposed to headline UFC Tampa Bay. Now it's Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley. What I don't understand is they tried to get Colby versus Ian on that Tampa Bay card, but Colby never signed, but he's willing to sign for Buckley. Something tells me Mr. Colby has got a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, it was really interesting how all that played out because when we first broke down the news happened, Buckley and Gary was booked. And I thought that was a really good matchup. And I was on record saying that I really didn't care what they did as the replacement because nothing could really give me what Bilal Shavkat was. And at the same time, the way they did it, I was completely wrong because I love this. Not attaching the interim title or anything to it is perfect, considering that both of these guys are undefeated.
I would say I don't really feel like you need the title because they're both undefeated. So to me, like somebody getting their zero taken is all the hype I need to see. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's a number one contender fight. So like winners going to the title and loser loses his zero. Like I think like that's enough high enough stakes without the title.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was saying. Is pretty much because of that, I give it 2 thumbs up. If they did it for the interim, I would have been like, yeah, that doesn't really feel natural. And the way they did it with someone's to be honest, I wish it was the main event. I do not care that it's a title fight or not a title fight or whatever. That will be the most intriguing card fight on the card to me. And that one has some low-key heat on it now. They did as good of a switch up. And, the Buckley-Kobe fight, like, we haven't seen Kobe fight an actual up-and-coming contender in a long time. And I'm sorry, the performance against Leon Edwards that was gifted to him by matchmaking does not count. That's for the title. This is kind of a risk for Kobe. And, that stuff with Gary was kind of funny. How that kind of all played out. But let's give him some credit because everyone and their mother wants to, crack the jokes. And, he makes it easy sometime. But nobody else in the division was doing this. Everyone else was turning it down. And so, like, if you don't like him, you at least have to semi-respect that he's willing to, put his O on the line. And, you could almost even argue that Gary is risking a little bit more than Shavkat in this.
I don't know, because Shavkat had the title fight. Shavkat had the title. Like, you know what I mean?
But
Like he had the
Shavkat
title match.
is that much of a psycho. Like that's like, you know, it kind of goes unnoticed sometimes because he, you know, it was important to him that he wanted to get a camp in or get a fight in because he already came out for the camp. So
Yeah.
that was the most important thing for him. And yeah, you're going to definitely feel some stakes in that one. It's 5 rounds, right? I'm pretty sure they said it was.
I don't know if they said it was a 5-round co-main event. It'd be cool if it was. I mean, I'm interested. Obviously, you know, I'm heavily involved in that. We won't make the pick today. We'll make that next week's show with you know, for the whole preview. But that fight is interesting. I'm not as interested in Buckley versus Covington as I am Gary versus Shavkat. I hope Buckley wins just because I'm tired of Colby and but man, and I doubt there's going to be a presser there too for that Tampa Bay card because I think that's a question you got to ask is like, hey, how come you're on this card with Buckley and you wouldn't sign against Ian? So
I mean, he's great at backpedaling at media day and stuff. And let me sell this to you. Because at first I wasn't happy about it just because I really liked the Gary Buckley fight, especially like it was kind of like Buckley getting rewarded.
yeah,
But at the
I
same
guess
time,
if he's getting rewarded still. Like, I mean, if you beat Colby Covington, you're right
this
there.
could almost work just as good,
if not better. Colby's what, ranked 4?
And who would have thought going from the batshit Conor McGregor call out that everyone clowned him to, he would now be closing the year fighting Colby Covington on is it a 4-fight win streak or 3?
Well, he's undefeated as a bantamweight. So Colby is ranked 6. Let me look at and Joaquin.
I mean, all due respect to Colby, the ranking is irrelevant. It's more of his name and stuff. Because I mean that ranking itself is a little fugazi, but you know, we don't need to get into the rankings that I mean AI would probably have him at 8.
So I'm looking at Joaquin here. He's on a 1, 2, 3. Oh wait. I need to go wrong way. I was going the wrong way here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's on a 4-fight win streak, but
he beat one. Yeah, he's on a 1, 2, 3, 4-fight win streak. You're right. Actually, a 5-fight win streak.
Yeah.
So
and now do Colby.
Well, I mean, Colby has not fought. And first of all, last time Colby fought was December 16th, 2023.
So like that's the wild thing to me in like Colby taking this fight is Buckley has had this insane activity and been extremely active, and Colby has almost been the complete opposite. Now, you know, granted he injured his foot in the Leon fight, so most of it has been like rehab and stuff, but you know, it did not seem like the UFC was offering him Wonder Boy or kind of any of those like, you know, easier matchups. But, you know, I do think Colby does deserve a little credit for taking this. My only question would be how much of an option did he really have, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, he very well, it is in Tampa there. So maybe he just wanted to fight there and stuff, but I think that's a great fight to close out the year.
Yeah, I was looking at Colby Covington. So his last like up and comer name, maybe it was back in 2017 he fought a guy named M-A Ma. After that it was Damian Maia, Rafael dos Santos.
Woodley was his last impressive win, and that
Robbie Lawler. He beat Robbie Lawler. That got him the title fight. Then he lost the title fight. Well, I guess he had the interim at some point. I can't remember who he beat there. Was that Robbie Lawler? Maybe.
No, it was Dos Anjos.
Okay. And then he beat Woodley, and then lost to Usman again, beat Jorge Masvidal, got the title fight off of that win. So, and then lost to Leon.
Yeah. And, I know it's unrelated, but I know you're hearing the smoke about Leon and Masvidal possibly in London.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah, I don't know. That one is really bizarre to me. I get why they're doing it, but
yeah, just 5 years too late.
Well, I mean, going from fighting for the title to a fight
Fighting
with
Jorge
Masvidal, like I don't know if the aspect is just we can headline with the main event.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like there are a lot more intriguing fights at the top of the division. Why
don't they do like Leon versus like JDM or somebody? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I kind of like Leon and Brady. I think that'd be a good one.
Yeah. Well, I've been hearing reports that it's going to be Usman versus Brady or somebody, or JDM, I guess. JDM.
Yeah.
It's not out yet, so we'll see. I got to ask you real quick, I don't really know enough about it, but I think we're both on the same page. But we would be doing we are MMA show, so we got to talk about one of the biggest names in UFC history and MMA history, and that's Conor McGregor, convicted in his civil case for rape. What do you think is going to happen with Conor as far as just like fighting wise? I don't think he'll ever step foot in the octagon, but he might have to now because he's got to pay her X amount of money. Proper 12 is like pretty much said, hey, we're washing him away from here. A couple other sponsorships have now trying to separate themselves. So what's your thoughts on Conor McGregor?
Yeah, people forget he sold a big chunk of Proper 12 for like 600 mil. So
yeah.
I've made it no secret that I think Conor's competitive career ended a long time ago. So that does not mean that he's not fighting again, though. And I don't think this news necessarily makes him need to take a fight or anything. It's more kind of puts eyes on the UFC and what they want to do. As you saw, Michael Chandler was still campaigning for the fight and stuff. So I would just kind of assume that they book him at the end of the year. There'd probably be a lot of.
Was Chandler on Ariel today? I haven't finished it. Was he campaigning for Conor today even?
Oh yeah. It you can tell he still thinks that's the one, and he's hoping maybe by the end of the year he can get it. But you could also tell he was, because Michael Chandler is very what's the proper word? It's very rehearsed. And he definitely kind of tiptoed about, asking for the fight and stuff. But you could tell that's definitely the one that he still wants. And, it feels so far away that I think that's going to be the UFC's main strategy, is just to not talk about it and let like 6 to 8 months pass and then hit themselves with a, McGregor promo. The Crack has done some pretty decent coverage on it, and everything I hear in Ireland is they're pretty fed up with him and stuff. It was a pretty mainstream story out there to where here, we just kind of heard the end of it. So where he goes from here, it's kind of a him problem. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I wouldn't expect the UFC to all of a sudden grow a moral compass or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Like I see them bring him back. Like he could fight today, and they would bring him back. Like this is a person. You know what I mean? They've had John Jones and his. You just look at John Jones. He's had domestic violence as well. They had what's the football player that Henry? Right? No.
Greg Hardy.
Greg Hardy. Yeah, they brought
Yeah.
him in. He was, he'd been convicted. I think he was convicted.
Not only that, they signed him and put him on the same card with some female fighter that has dealt with domestic abuse.
Yes.
So
So
I mean, they are about as tone deaf as you can get.
I will say this, like maybe now that it's a public traded company, and because of his name, everybody knows who Conor McGregor is. Like that would draw eyes. It could, negative eyes or whatnot. But where they might want to separate themselves, it is a little bit different with the TKO merger. I mean, we saw that they got rid of Vince McMahon for all the things that he had done. So but Connor's a little different. He's not making business decisions. He's a fighter. So
Well, the more interesting one to me is kind of BKFC. And
yeah,
I asked a lot of people about it. They're like, oh, there's no way in hell that they would drop him, like, with all the exposure he's given them. But, there's also a lot of videos of him partying at the events, dancing with randoms. So
yeah,
that ain't a good look either. But, at the same time, I don't think long term it's going to be anything that both of them wouldn't be willing to sweep under the rug for a few bucks,
yeah. I think especially if let's just say it's the tail end of 25. By that time, the way the world works and how fast news cycles work, it's it'll spit you. It's, everybody will have been forgotten until probably fight week, and then it'll probably be brought up.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind there are only like 2 or 3 events left and stuff, so it's not like they'll have the hiatus where they're like normally off for 2 weeks, and it's gonna be one of those developing things. So in the words of Dana White, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. One thing we're still waiting to see play out before we get out of here, Bobby, is some of these Bellator fighters. I mean, you got Patchy Nix. Yeah, Patchy Nix. You got Patricio Pitbull. You got AJ McKee. Like AJ McKee, I guess, just kind of fought, but they got a couple of these other guys like that have been
Corey
sitting on
Anderson.
Corey Anderson. They got some guys that got a little bit of name. Like they're the bigger Bellator
They're champions.
Yeah, Bellator names.
That's wild.
And they don't have any fights. We haven't seen them.
Yeah, it's this isn't how I wanted to segue into breaking down, and I'm not expecting to break down that card, but I was definitely gonna mention the Black Friday card. We got the Bellator or I'm even doing it, the PFL championships. So we get 6 championship fights. But a week before that, we were seeing these tweets from the athletes pretty much asking, hey, can I get a fight here? And we've seen this already with Musasi, where they flat out released him and now he's suing them. So if this was not the PFL, it would just be kind of like whatever, because it would be, this is just MMA. But this is the organization that tries to, pride themselves on fighter first.
And say that they're better than the UFC.
Yeah. And this tournament that they have on Friday, there's going to be 6 people that have the opportunity to win $1 million. So that's great and all. But at the same time, why can't these other athletes in Bellator get booked? Is it because of these $1 million cash prizes? Is it because they need to just merge these two things and they're just really struggling with that? I don't really know what the problem is, but you would kind of hope it would get addressed because, I think people said it best when these guys are legitimately wasting their prime right now. Now, if you want to say, these guys are wasting their prime because they're in PFL, that's all fine and dandy, but they don't really have a choice in the matter because, their contracts got acquired and stuff like that. It'd be one thing if, Bellator was letting them go and stuff, but they're pretty much icing them. And, that ain't a good look when you got these guys quote tweeting Don Davis's promo for this weekend's event. And unfortunately, most of the traction I've seen is people talking about why aren't these Bellator fighters, getting fights. And no disrespect to anyone on the PFL card, but all of those Bellator fighters have far more established names. Now, that doesn't mean
I
I'm
just
not
looked at this Black Friday card. The only name I recognize is Brandon Locklane.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main event. That's great. The fight I'm most excited for is the female fight with Dakota versus Santos. I love that she's like getting a real test finally, like someone that's kind of like, seasoned and stuff. Because almost every time she has a fight, she makes it look easy. And make no mistake, other than Francis Ngannou, I think she is their biggest star. Or if you don't want to say biggest, I would say the most marketable. So that's a big one for them.
Yeah,
And,
it just again we've discussed this before. It just shows you like the non-promotion, like they're not promoting it on PFL. They're not, you know what I mean? Like there's no traction for these fights, and I feel bad for the fighter, like especially somebody like a Patricio Pitbull, who's been around a long time and could come into the UFC and compete. AJ McKee the same way. Like they're Patchy Nix is like he was in the UFC, or no, Patchy's never been in the UFC. I'm thinking of Sergio Pettis. But Patchy could come in and he could be competitive right away. Like these are guys who could really do something in the UFC, and you're watching they can't train. They're not, the promotion that they're in is promoting them, and you would think like shit, why not put them on? I know that they try to keep it separate, but we've already seen them blur the lines of like Bellator and PFL, right? So why not fucking just throw one of them on one of these cards too, just to have something else? So some of these undercard, what if you did a Apache Nix fight on Friday, and then you also have, so you get the name draw from him, and then you get to see some of these other guys.
I agree with you. However, if they did do that, they'd be charging us a pay-per-view for it. I feel like the only reason they did it free and stuff like that, because remember last year, this was a pay-per-view that they
did.
And so, the one credit I'll give PFL for in the promotion of this, like all the promotion felt very generic in like fighter A, fighter B. However, they did a few promos for Dakota that they did a really good job of like telling you her story and stuff. So that's like why you're kind of invested in her. And they need to kind of do that with the rest of these guys. And when I say that, I do not mean do it during the event to make the pacing god awful. I'm talking about before you need to be doing this. Because, I mean, anyone that's watching this, please bear with the pacing. Because, I mean, that is, you're going to be strapped in for a long one. But at the same time, one of the championship fights is an O versus an O. So someone's O's got to go. But it is going to wonder how it comes off. And we kind of buried the lead with the most important thing. Elbows will be allowed in this. So it is almost, we're actually almost watching MMA. Because, I mean, there's so many times when they're in that position. And I'm like, if they could throw elbows, this fight would be over. And that's a big reason why we get these 6.5 hour cards. So I'm curious, with elbows being allowed, hopefully, Lockney said that he knew about it well before. I'm hoping all the athletes knew that, because it's kind of got to be a weird thing, considering you were not able to throw any elbows in the tournament. And now it's all like, let's do it. But let's please make this the standard,
I think they said they're going to. I think they said from now on, elbows will be permitted.
Dan Hardy gets all the credit for that, not Don Davis, in my opinion. Like, I mean, at this point, please just give Dan Hardy that Don Davis role. I've said this in the past, but Dan is far more qualified to lie to me than Don Davis, who openly admits he does not watch MMA.
True that. I'll give you that. We know Dan watches and coaches, so he does it. He does it all.
Yeah, and because of that, he can promote it. Like,
yeah, they don't have the great production or promotion at all. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I would lie to you if I said like I'm looking forward to it because I'm not. And I probably won't even. I'm probably not going to watch a whole lot of it. I probably watch the crappy Chiefs Raiders game. So there's that.
I'm hoping I can parlay that into it, but again, with how this pacing goes, I don't know. But
the fights would start and still be going by the time the football game's over with.
Yeah, no. When I wake up, this one will be on because it's over there. But at the same time, I'll probably be sending you some clips, getting you the guilt trip you to tune into it. So
yeah.
Or at the same time, I very well might text you and be like, well, choice of your time. But, this is the one event, like if you're in the tournament, it's the best one to watch because it is the conclusion of it,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know a lot of people that have no idea it's even going on. So.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they've slowed down for a while, and maybe just like this last year, because they're trying to figure out this PFL Bellator. But it seemed like there for a while they were trying to get a lot of guys, and now they're not. Like it feels like they're free. They're not getting so many people. Remember, like at one time, like they had the other Pettis, Showtime. He was in it for a little bit. They've had a few other people in it. They had a little bit of name, but nowadays, like I said, it's hard.
Well, especially like now that the Paul Hughes fight is booked with Usman, like legitimately, I think that is going to be Usman's last fight at Bellator. Like I don't know where his contract is or anything, but especially when you see what is happening to these other guys, and it is very fortunate that we were even able to get that fight because I thought the PFL's ridiculous tournament was gonna fuck that all up. So at least we got one of them. But come on, get these other. It's not like we're asking them to get like these guys are champions. There is no excuse.
And they're calling for the fights. That's the thing. They're asking for the fights. They want to fight. You know what I mean? They got bills to pay. I think the Paul Hughes. I don't want to say it's too much too soon. I think he's playing his cards smartly. Let's get in there. If I can win the Bellator title, and I've beaten some guys now. I have some names, and let's just say he signed a 4-fight win, fight streak or whatever. I think he's got to do 2 seasons. I don't know. But then he can just get out of his contract. And he has some names that he's beaten. Plus, he could be the Bellator champion for his negotiations next time with the UFC.
Or realistically, we get Usman Hughes 1 in Bellator, and then we get the rematch in the UFC.
In UFC, probably so.
That will be kind of a long time away because, Paul's deal is fresh. But I do not want him to sniff the PFL tournament. I think it does, like, other than the money, I think it does nothing for his career and stuff, especially like people, were willing to cast him off in the AJ fight. So, it's weird to have something excited for what they got down the line, but that's going to be a good one. So, it's not all doom and gloom, but when it's mixed with all this other stuff, it really makes you wonder how long can they do this for, like we've seen so many promotions try and stuff. And, I think their biggest issue is like the ticket sales are non-existent, like if it comes to ticket sales, like BKFC is easily the co-leader.
And they're setting
So
up themselves, and they do it right. I mean, their Knucklemania that's going to happen here. We're getting Eddie Alvarez in his hometown. Like they're figuring that out.
yeah, and I mean they know what to do, and like obviously they have a little bit of an advantage because it's bare knuckle boxing, so it's not as kind of copy and paste as like PFL trying to do stuff different than the UFC. But
But they're also staying in their lane. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They know who they are, they know what they are, and they're staying there.
but if it takes abolishing the tournament to get these Bellator guys fights,
Then
get
do it.
rid of it.
Yeah.
Like, and but I think with their roster size, they can still keep it going. But I think that is why they have like one hand tied behind their back, because I think their plan is, oh, let's have our PFL champions fight these Bellator champions.
That did
And
happen. And Bellator won all of them, and besides Ryan Bader.
yeah, so now these guys have to wait 2 years to do that again. Like, fuck that. Like, expedite it. There is no need for that. And, sign someone off the street. Like, I don't care. Like, if it's, I think it's clearly because what they have to pay them contractually, they're kind of holding it out to do it for an event. And, you got to get these guys fights, especially if they're your fucking champions.
Yeah. Like, even if the organization's pretty much dead, I think they should just scrap the tournament and just call it the Professional Fighters League or maybe just go all Bellator, put it all under one umbrella, and then you have a second promotion,
I know people that generally enjoy the tournament and stuff like that. I've tried to get there. To me, there's some instances where like, oh, wow, this person ended up getting a flash knockout, and because of that, like they're going to vault and stuff.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, you just get people fighting so safe because there's so much money on the line, and it looks like a glorified sparring match. So, their best fights that they've put on are the ones that they've done matchmaking with, So, give us more of that. But granted, I know that's not their stick, but, we'll give our, PFL review at the end of the year. And, I'm sure there's some award we can throw in there for them.
Yeah, turd of the year. That might belong to our guy Michael Chandler right now, who said real quick. He said he was going to could beat Charles Oliveira 9 out of 10 times, but he's 0-2 against him. I'm no math major, Bobby, but that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's. I know you go with he's a heel.
He is the ultimate heel. That's a heel line right there. I could beat him 9 out of 10 times. Yeah, but you lost to him twice. Yeah,
it is. And
9 out of 10.
Credit to him for acknowledging how awful of a performance he had. But
yeah,
to me, it all went out the window when he was willing to admit everything else. And then he's like, I was real disappointed in the commentary team talking about me, hitting people in the back of their head. They're fighters. Apparently they don't know where the back of the head is. I was hitting him in the ear. Last week when I said he had 2 legal shots, yeah, those were to the ear. But, I don't need a Venn diagram to know where the back of the head is. And he's acting like, we're watching it on some like bootleg like pay-per-view in 1996. This shit is in HD. Like, just stop it. But hey, if he's playing into the heel, more power to him.
He is. He is, Bobby.
I saw a man that rehearsed that so many times that he believes it. And, if you want to go off the, well, you just don't know what you're looking at excuse, good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah. Well, folks, this has been another great episode of Head Kicks and Haymakers. Bobby, any big Thanksgiving plans before we get out of here?
No, not really. It's cool to. It's like the end of the week for me, so that should be good. Get some turkey in, got some football going. So I have absolutely nothing to complain about, and we're gonna wash it all down with some PFL championship. So
You're gonna wash it down, not me. Uh, we'll be back this time next week, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern, for a new episode of Head Kicks and Haymakers. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody! Make sure you be thankful and eat some turkey. And we'll be back again next week, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. We'll preview UFC 290 or 230. 310, 311,
the
310.
numbers are relevant. The card is awesome. So
UFC
we'll break
310
down
pay-per-view, headlined by none other than Askura versus Pantoja for the flyweight championship, baby. We'll see you then.
Or in my
See
mind,
ya.
it's headlined by Gary Shavkat. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, let's talk sport, friends. Thanks for watching.
Oh, fuck.